Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you on the screen of the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as we do have a bonus pair waiting there for you. I will quickly go through my trades for the week first, so quickly go through that, take a look at the DXY as well, and then progress into the analysis. So if there is a particular pair you do want to skip ahead to, feel free to use the timestamps below. I had two positions this week, but one new position I took this week. So I jumped into some dollar CAD shorts in a bit of profit at the moment. Hasn't been moving too smoothly as we have seen a very weak dollar, but we've seen a very weak CAD as well. So it's been the battle of the weaker currencies here right now. Of course, we'll get into the DXY and USD side of things. USD has been very, very bearish. One of the reasons why I've been looking to short dollar CAD, but also structurally, and the price action looks like we could be seeing a move to the downside. I hopped on a retest of the high here, 1.45. I was talking about this area on the last week's analysis. Nice rejection then the 4-hour time frame, stop loss above the high, and I've been looking to target the lows. I do think we can go further, but because I am a bit counter trend, the market has been trending to the upside and being a little bit more conservative with targets and just looking for a push back into the low. NFP did send price up against me, but I'm still holding my area of structure. My stop loss is still above the high. I haven't gotten to break even. So as long as that level is still intact, I am staying bearish on this one. So dollar CAD shorts, we'll see how that goes next week. Of course, Aussie Chef, I'm still holding this from a few weeks back now. I've already taken most of my profit at the swing low. As I've been saying, this is where I'm going to take most of my profit because the original target for the trade was that low there. So I've already taken most of my profit, but I'm leaving about 20% to run to the swing low all the way down there because I understand that, okay, Aussie Chef in a larger bearish trend as a whole. So if we are going to see the continuation of that trend, and I'm positioned in a nice place where we could see that happen as well, there is that possibility I could capitalize on the full swing to the downside back into these lows. So I'm leaving a little bit of my position to run, just with the goal of maximizing my wins, because if you are in favor of the trend and you are positioned well, you might as well try and take advantage of the trend should it continue. Of course, already taken most of my profit. I have trailed my stop loss just above the high there, so whatever happens, the remaining positions will be stopped out in profit over there. But if we can get the full swing, fantastic. Still a long way to go, probably about halfway there. So yeah, we'll see if that continues back to the lows at 0.53. In terms of the dollar, so very bearish this week, big drop to the downside. We're anticipating some shorts. I was looking for price to pull up a little bit higher. That would have probably helped me out with some positions on pound, positions on euro, because I was looking to buy them this week. But dollar was just very, very bearish from the start of the week, and I didn't really see much of a pullback. Dollar CAD was the only pair that did pull back enough out of the USD pairs for me to get a trade. That's purely because CAD was so weak. Otherwise, I would have been falling to the downside pretty hard as well. But yeah, dollar, big drop to the downside there. Again, on a larger scale, it does look like price has just had a failed attempt trying to break through the highs here on the left. So now I'm expecting a push all the way back down to support around 101, but 100 is more or less where I'm looking for price to go. So in my book, there's a long way to go for dollar for short. So for the foreseeable future, just very focused on selling USD for now. So my goal is just how far of a pullback do we get before we can get a good short. I marked on a few areas. 104.6, a recent high over there, not the strongest level, but again, if there's just so much momentum in the market, we might see a shorter term pullback and price just continues that descend there. If we do have a slightly bigger pullback, which is kind of what I'm hoping for, a couple areas which I'm liking, 105.6, the retest of that low, or this low here, the support we broke through, 106.2, those would be some really nice areas for some shorts. And of course, looking for some buys on euro and pound, and we'll get through some other USD pairs together. But that's more or less what I'm looking at there for the DXY. Extremely bearish, so I know I'm looking to short. There's a lot of bearish momentum in the market. Now it's just about finding those pullbacks and continuing to short. And those are the areas which I do like there for the DXY. But depending how bullish we are on the pullback, will depend which level we probably reject and continue from. But as I said, longer term targets 101, 100 as well, looking for price to get to. So going on to Euro USD, pretty much the exact opposite. I've marked on a couple levels here as well. So a crazy bullish move this week. I was looking for some buys slightly further down. Unfortunately, didn't quite happen. Price was just so bullish. We ripped to the upside, but that was the area I said last week some buys could look good. it's just, yeah, the price was just so bullish. So with euro, if I expand to the daily chart, same situation. We had a major swing low there. Price essentially failed to break below that or sustain a break below that, because we did break through, but it just wasn't a good breakout. We didn't really see much momentum. Price was giving us that bowl shape pattern, which I was hinting at for a while, saying that this normally does give us a move to the upside. And as you can see, a really big move to the upside there. So for euro, looking for a push back into major resistance up here at around 1.11. So that's what I'm looking for euro to get to, which coincides with the level on the DXY. And in terms of where we could pull back into, I've marked on a couple of areas. There's also this area down here, but it's just very far away. And for analysis for next week, I don't think I should be talking about this level here. You know, that would be a hell of a move for us to get there in the first place. So just more focus on these two areas. If you have more of a shallow pullback, I've highlighted that low there. That could be a nice place where price might find support and potentially continue from. If we have a slightly deeper pullback, then I'm going to be considering this level, which lines up very well with the high over there. Nice move to the downside. Haven't really been used as support yet, so we'll see if we can have that rejection. But of course, waiting for price to get there. Wicks, bullish engulfing candles, not looking to jump straight in. But that really is the idea there for euro, and yeah, expecting more upside longer term. So as long as we maintain this bullish structure, which will be quite hard to reverse, or I should say, as long as we kind of stay corrective on the way down, because I don't want to see price impulsively push the downside for euro, something like that, because then we get a big inverse V-shaped pattern, which is more of a reversal pattern. But if you slowly push down ish, doesn't have to be so slow, but as long as it's more of a corrective move down, the likely chance it's a pullback for price to continue higher, and that will be what I'll be looking for to get into some buys with longer term targets back at 1.11. But more or less wherever that high forms for the week, that'll be the target. So very bullish on euro, expecting a lot more upside next week. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So very bearish on this one, expecting more downside. This week we did see some nice progression in terms of breaking that swing low. Didn't see a lot of momentum, however, which is a key thing I want to see. But I do like this setup here, retesting prior support, resistance, and coming into that trend line. We've got these prior swing highs, which I'm looking for price to print another one in and get that continuation. If I expand to the daily chart, this is where I'm expecting price to get to now, 140, massive level of support. I'm expecting price to reach that level in the next few days. We've now broken through that swing low, as I mentioned, so the odds of us seeing a continuation to the upside are very slim now, because if we would have got that continuation, we should have respected that low most likely. Of course, anything can happen, but the odds of us seeing now a trend to the upside is very slim. So the odds of us coming a lot further down is pretty high. And of course, that's all we have to work with traders. You know, where's the probability of price pushing this way versus this way? If we can get that understood to a good degree, we can use that to our advantage, which for dollar yen, it looks like we're probably going to move to the downside here. So looking for some longer term shorts, but of course we do need to see a bit of a pullback. Market is very corrective, so it's a little bit tired now. It has been trending to the downside for a while, so I do need to see a bit of a relief and pull back into this area. Nice area of confluence, resistance. We've got the trend line there as well. Would be a nice place for a short. Stops above the high, and then targets back to the low, keeping it relatively simple. If that's where we pull back from, that would be a great target. You can always leave some positions to run if you're looking for the bigger move. But that's really what I'm looking at next week for dollar yen. Even if we do break through this area, I'll still be short bias. However, we might have a much bigger pullback, a much more developed kind of swing high that forms before a big push down. So that could be a story for another week. But as long as we can respect that area of confluence, that's where I'm looking to short, which is 151. And targets back at 147, with keeping in mind 140 as the longer term target. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So as I said with dollar CAD, I'm currently short this one, looking for a push into the low, and that was the plan coming into the week. And I'm still expecting that bias to fulfill, a push back into the low and possibly a lot more downside. If you've just seen the analysis to the DXY, I'm very bearish with that one longer term as well. So I do still see a lot of USD weakness in the market, which should help dollar CAD see some downside. And of course, given where we are trading at major resistance, 1, 2, and of course potentially a third time, you can see both prior attempts to break this price at 1.46 has resulted in really big moves to the downside. So we potentially could see another reaction there for dollar CAD. and hence why I'm looking to try and potentially call a bit of a top to this bullish move, at least expecting a bit of a counter trend to fall. So dollar CAD I am bearish, but in terms of finding entries, I think the only safe place for an entry, especially if you're looking to swing, would be if price can get back into resistance and form a bit of a double top. That way you can get stop loss above the high and still maximize your profits back into the low. Trying to get involved on retest of some of the smaller areas of structure aren't bad. You can really refine your risk and increase your risk reward as well, a lot more than you would do on the higher time frame. But because the market is quite choppy, essentially we have been consolidating for a while. You could probably view this big move here and this move here as fake outs of that range. So essentially the market has just been moving sideways for quite a while and trying to pick minor levels within a range, and breaking retest inside a range is just always going to be a difficult proposition, because you'll see a lot of fluctuation and the odds of price kind of just seeing a random wick to take you out the trade will be a lot higher, versus if you're at the top of the market, top of the range, you can get some relatively safe stop losses, still kind of maximize your risk reward because you're entering up high, and just have a safer trade in general. So that's kind of what I would be looking at if I was looking to get involved with dollar CAD, if I wasn't already. So 1.45 still very reasonable level of resistance to be looked to short from. Really nice rejection from initially. Essentially just looking for the continuation of this bearish move. So big drop, looking at this as the pullback and a continuation back into the low. So that's the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so moving on to euro pounds. I'm still bearish on euro pound. However, we had a really bullish week this week. Euro was very strong. GBP's not so much, and a big move there. So I was expecting prices to kind of continue back into the low this week, which is at 0.822. Didn't get that continuation. Big push to the upside. I'm still overall kind of looking for more downside for euro pound. Again, we are trading some really big levels of monthly support where we can turn around from, but until we start to see some structural shifts, I'm not really going to be looking for that big move just yet, especially when looking at the daily chart. We still do have this overall kind of downtrend on our hands. We've got those lower highs, 1, 2, and looking for a third one in this area. So for euro pound, I do want to see a bit more upside so we can get pushed back into the high there, so back into this level of resistance on our left and towards that trend line as well. That'll be a nice area of confluence to be looking for a short and possibly a big swing, although I'll probably keep it relatively conservative with targets just in case we are about to reverse from that monthly level of support, because although we haven't really seen price show signs of turning around, it is still a monthly level of support and we could turn around at any point pretty much. So always kind of keeping that in the back of our heads for now. But there is a nice area of confluence for shorts just above us. If the bearish trend is going to continue, that's kind of where I would be looking to short from, because at the moment we've kind of seen a big move to the upside, but we're in the middle of nowhere really. There's not a lot to work with right now with euro pound. I wouldn't really be looking to buy it. Wouldn't really be looking to sell it either. If I can get a push back to 0.847 up at the highs here, I can put a relatively safe stop loss, see how prices reacting with that area, and possibly capitalize on a nice move to the downside as well. So that's really where I'll be looking to short from a swing bias. Like I said, euro pound right now, not really seeing much of an opportunity because we're not really trading in any area of confluence or any area of value, at least in my opinion anyway. So looking for price to come a lot higher. There should be some nice shorts around that high. Of course, we'll see how we reject, but that's really the swing I'm interested in next week there for euro pound. So keep an eye on the shorts around 0.847 for next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So I am looking for more upside for this one. I'm very bullish on Aussie dollar. Again, very bearish on USD. So pretty much all USD majors, I'm favoring USD weakness as the main move, opposed to the other currencies. So for Aussie dollar, especially where we're trading as well, if I go to the weekly chart, you can see we're at some really big levels of support. Prior to this, big reaction, and now there again, possibly might be seeing a push to the upside. Also, we had a lot of momentum with that drop there not long ago, and all that momentum's kind of disappeared as well. So it's kind of a sign that, okay, we are respecting support most likely, and we're likely to see a bit of a bounce to the upside as well for Aussie dollar. So we're seeing multiple signs that Aussie could be seeing a bit of a bounce. I did say this looks like a nice area for a buy. Didn't quite get there this week, and price had a bit of a move to the upside. But now, again, not really in any area of interest, any area of value. So I'm wanting Aussie dollar to actually break the highs and then look for the next pullback afterwards, whether it's a retest of the high here or the retest of the high there is yet to be seen. Depends how big of a breakout we have. how impulsive the breakout is, and how the pullback forms, depending which level I'll be looking to try and anticipate some buys from. But all I can say is that I am still very much looking for buys for Aussie dollar. It just really depends on the breakout and how everything follows from there afterwards. But as in where we're trading right now, I mean, effectively, you can be looking at this whole price action as a bit of a range, really. There's no kind of consistency with it. This could be a higher low and price getting ready to see a higher high. If that's the case, great. Then we'll be looking at these opportunities here for some continuations. If we start pushing back down again, then I might start looking at some opportunities on the bottom here around 0.61, try and catch some bounces off that level of support. But right now, not really an area where I want to be looking to enter or put a stop loss. Again, maybe intraday you might find something there, but on the 4-hour chart, this is really what I'm more interested in. So keep an eye on Aussie dollar buys. Very bullish on the Aussie, very bearish on the USD, but I want to see the break of structure past 0.64, and then I'll look for some pullback. So that is the setup I've got going right now for Aussie dollar. Okay, so next up we've got New Zealand CAD. So I'm pretty bearish on this one still. It looks like price is still respecting the high. We've actually pulled back into a nice place for a short. And if we are going to see the continuation back into support, so since we got the break of the trend line there, and we're looking for price to come back into the low here. We almost did, very close, but didn't quite see that move. Since then, we've been pretty consistent with the lower highs, and as long as price can continue with that, I'm looking at another drop back into the low there. If price starts breaking to the upside like so, then we're probably looking at a bullish move there for New Zealand CAD, and I'll probably scrap that bearish bias. But for now, I am pretty bearish. So we've had a nice initial rejection there on Thursday or Friday or Thursday. So if we could see some more of that, that could be a really nice entry at the high. Essentially looking for a double top at this level here, stops above the high, and shorts look pretty good. If you do see that full swing, you're probably looking at a pretty decent risk to reward there for New Zealand CAD. Of course, CAD has been pretty weak, so it's been quite difficult to short any CAD pairs up against CAD because of CAD weakness. But if we do see CAD take a bit of a breather, we could see New Zealand CAD have a really nice push to the downside. Of course, likewise, if you do see price break to the upside, CAD stays strong, maybe CAD stays weak, NZD becomes strong, then we could actually see a nice opportunity on the other side. So as I've said, I'm pretty bearish on this one, but if we do see a decent break of the level, I do think there'll be some nice buys as well. So not trying to be too rigid in terms of the bias, because if this level doesn't hold, I wouldn't be looking to short anymore. At that point, we've got higher highs and higher lows, and the buys will make a lot of sense to follow as well. So keep an eye on this level. 0.822 will be the area which will dictate the bias for myself on New Zealand CAD. Break above that, I will be bullish, looking for a break and retest. Perhaps we are going to see price turn around, or if we are going to continue this bearish momentum, then we do need to see price continue to reject that level, and from there we can find some nice shorts, entries, stop loss above the high, and target the lows there. So keep a close eye on 0.822 next week for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so up next we've got pound NZD. So of course, being very, very bullish this week, big break to the upside. We have left some nice areas for some longs should the market pull back. Of course, we're creating some new highs right now, and looking to the left, we haven't been at these prices for a while. Last time we were here was back in 2015, so pretty much a decade since we've been at these prices. But nonetheless, you can see it's a very comfortable bullish trend, but every time we do create new highs, market does tend to go through a bit of a pullback. So expecting that to come in the next few days. Of course, we could still rally pretty hard, do another 100 pips pretty easily before the pullback. So it's always a bit difficult to try and call the tops on that. But when we do get the pullback, which more or less the market always does, there are some nicer areas below us where we could be finding some buys. This was some really strong resistance, which price broke through. Hasn't really come back for the retest yet. So I am looking at something like this to develop over the next few days. And that will be a really nice swing to get into another higher low. So if I zoom out, look at the daily chart, you can see since pretty much the low here in 2023 December, the market's been so consistent with all these high lows, and hasn't shown any signs of breaking structure just yet. So the odds of us continuing that are pretty high. Of course, we will break it at some point, but for now, keep looking to stay in tune with the market, what the market is giving us. Then when we see some signs of breaking structure, of course, we can talk about some long-term shorts there. But for now, still very much looking at some pullbacks for pound NZD. Since we're breaking the highs, not really looking to follow the trend anymore, waiting for price to come back to us. And this is really where my interest lies. So keeping a very close eye on 2.2215, we'll call that. Entries there, stop loss underneath, and possibly some targets back at the high there as well. So that is the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So very bearish on this one as well. We've almost taken out that wick low. It looks like we're seeing that break of the neckline for this head and shoulder pattern on the daily chart. So you've got the left shoulder, head, right shoulder. This is the big drop in July, and all I've been looking at is this is the correction, and now expecting the continuation for price to go and take out these wick lows, and we're very, very close to doing that. I expect price to see a lot more downside, by the way. I've just been talking about the wick low as a big target because it's where we dropped into, but realistically, I think we could be coming down to these lows in the long term, 94.9, probably even further than that. I'm basically looking at this as a bit of a top to that 2-year trend we've had for the yen pair. So I'm expecting a lot of downside for the yen pairs, but I'm just talking about, relatively logical targets to work towards for now. And of course, that wick low is very, very close to be taken out. But in terms of finding some entries, I do need to see price have a bit of a pullback. We are looking fairly tight as well. You can see how corrective we are. It's not like CAD Yen is dropping really hard to the downside. We're very kind of sluggish. So that tells me a pullback is pretty likely at some point. We may take out the wick low before we do the pullback. It would be nice if we don't. The market is very corrective. So unless we suddenly drop and see some really aggressive momentum like we kind of saw on the DXY, I'm expecting to see a pretty big pullback at some point. I like the support level here. That'll be a great place for a short should we get there for a retest and see the next lower high for the continuation. We had one major lower high or high over there, drop, another lower high over there, big drop. Now looking at another third lower high and another drop to the downside. So that's very much the plan I have there for CAD Yen. Keeping it very simple, just looking at areas where we could see sellers step in and where likely a lower high could form, and expecting that wick low to be taken out pretty soon next week. So shorts around 105.7 look good, just waiting for a pullback for CAD Yen and expecting a lot more downside. Okay, so over to pound USD. So very bullish on this one. Lovely swing to the upside this week. I'm looking for the retest of this area. Nice confluence. First, second, third test. Looking for the fourth. You also got some really nice resistance, which of course we broke through this week. Haven't really seen a retest of. So that's really where my confluence lies there for pound USD. Of course, very bearish on USD itself. So I'm expecting a lot more upside for pound. Potentially you could see a swing all the way back to the high here. Again, we'll kind of keep that card close to our chest for now. I think for now, just keep it relatively simple, swing it back to the next high on the lower time frames. It looks like price is respecting this area here, and this is the low which gave us this big swing to the upside, creating new highs past this point. So perhaps we could be looking to do something similar and see another swing to the previous high, which is back at 1.34. So the possibility for a big swing to the upside, especially if USD gets to, if the DXY gets to 101, 100, those sort of prices, we could see pound make a similar move to the upside. But for now, at least for next week anyway, if we see a pullback from the high there, that'd be a great target to work with. You can always leave positions to run if you're looking to take the market further. And if the trend continues, we'll look to kind of continue with it and talk about those targets in a bit more detail soon. But for now, I like the higher lows here. I like the retest of that level. We've broken through structure on our left, so waiting for a pullback and some buys next week around the 1.27 area. Okay, so next up we've got pound CAD. So very bullish this week, as we can see with the CAD weakness, big break to the upside. And we've also taken out some major highs on the weekly chart. If I expand to the weekly time frame, you can see this high which I've drawn across back in 2018, taking that across. We've actually closed above that. So not necessarily saying that price is going to continue flying to the upside. It could do. If anything, taking up major highs does insinuate potentially a big pullback at some point, but it's definitely safe to say the market is very, very bullish right now. And if we drop to the low time frames, or at least the daily chart anyway, you can see we left behind some really nice structure here, really nice resistance. which if price was to come back and retest, there's a good chance we do have a bounce and see some upside from that area. So pound CAD, I'm just looking for a pullback, especially because how well the market has respected this area as resistance. There's a good chance we could use this as support and possibly continue the trend back to highs wherever we pull back from. Like I said, because we were taking out some major structure in the weekly chart, yes, it's a bullish sign of a breakout, but I do expect to see a bigger pullback at some point for pound CAD. It is a bit stretched to the upside, but for now, at least for next week anyway, or maybe the next couple of weeks, because it might take a whole week for us to retrace, to be honest, this opportunity does look really, really good. So waiting for price to get there, retest that level, provide some rejection, and then swing it back to where we came from. It looks like a nice target, and from there on afterwards, we can judge and see how price is looking. But for now, really solid level at 1.815. Looking for a pullback into that level, waiting for entry signals, and then hopefully we can swing it back into the highs. And that will be the plan next week for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So I'm still very bearish on this pair. If I expand to the daily chart, similar to the analysis from CAD yen, I'm still expecting us to come back into the wick low. Of course, CAD has been very bearish, which is why CAD yen is actually very close to the low that we made in August last year. Whereas pound's kind of just respecting support right now and just moving sideways. So pound yen hasn't really been fantastic to trade, especially on the higher time frames, being extremely flat. Although I'm expecting a big break to the downside, I either want to see price make a strong break of support and then find some pullbacks afterwards to short, or pull away, come back into this territory here where we've got one high, second high, perhaps a third, and then from there we can get some nice sells back down again. At least up there I can find a nice safe stop loss or safer stop loss, and potentially short it back into that support level. At least I'm away from the noise and away from all the choppy price action in that area, because right now all we've been doing for the past few weeks is just really just moving sideways at support. So this is where I'm expecting price to go long term. So in terms of me looking to trade that, I either need, like I said, price to pull away from the support level so I can find some nice shorts around 196 in reference to that trend line and those prior highs over there. So that would be one idea. And the second idea would be, okay, if the market decides it wants to be very bearish and we just break to the downside all of a sudden, then I'm looking at pullbacks, retest, and then some more downside like so. So that would be a second idea as which one is more likely to form. Not too sure, because pound yen sometimes has a mind of its own, and sometimes we could just plummet to the downside out of nowhere, and then I'm just looking for break and retest and shorts afterwards. Or if we do respect support and continue to do that, then yeah, we could see a push to the upside of 196, and from there as well looking to sell. Either which way, two really big moves to be looking to capitalize on. Risk to reward looks good for both of them. All I know is that I don't want to be looking to short directly into the support level and get involved with all that messy price action there as well. So keep an eye on either one of these setups, 196 shorts or breaking retest around 188. Longer term target, still looking for a push back into 180, and that will be the plan next week for pound yen. Okay, so next up for gold. So gold I was favoring a bit more downside this week. I was hoping for a bigger pullback into the previous swing high on the daily chart, so the swing high here. This is kind of where I want to see price pull back into before I start looking for some bigger swing trades to take gold back to all-time highs and further. This week we kind of got a very sharp move to the upside, so it looks like price is giving us a bit of a V-shaped pattern here, which is a bullish price action, and I do expect price to break to the upside. However, we've been caught in this consolidation, so I do think for gold next week, some nice lower time frame opportunities will look really, really good, depending on which way we break out. If we break to the downside, there could be some really nice shorts on some pullbacks, perhaps the retest of the range back into the low here, and you kind of take advantage of that swing. Or if we decide to break to the upside, then you're looking at very bullish gold, retest back to all-time highs, and probably further. We do have that 3K big psychological level just above us, which is where likely price is to push into as well. So the way I see it for gold, price is just sideways. It's going to make its move. I was kind of expecting NFP to give us the breakout. We saw a bit of a wick to the upside, but not much really. So NFP didn't give us the breakout, but at some point we will break out, hopefully next week at some point. And like I said, if it's a clear break to the upside, you're looking at push back to the high and then further as well. But of course, if you can drop to maybe the 15-minute chart, a swing back to the high is probably all you need for a decent trade there. Don't have to be looking for anything too crazy. Something like this, 15-minute, maybe 30-minute time frame for entries will look good. If you're looking for a similar trade in the 15-minute chart. Again, doesn't necessarily have to be 15, 30, even hourly, but of course 4 hour, I don't think you can maximize your risk reward there that well. But something like this looks really good as well on the lower time frames for gold. Break to the downside, retest, just looking to take advantage of that momentum. And then hopefully we'll see a bigger pullback, and I can speak about some longs here perhaps the week after. But for now, this isn't really relevant to us, but that is something I'm keeping an eye on in case gold does have a bigger pullback. For now, just looking for the break out of the consolidation, so keeping a close eye on 29.26 and also 28.91. And then we've got some targets back at 29.50 and also 28.40, depending on which way we break out. But that's the plan next week for gold. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I am still leaning to the bearish side of things, especially with the breakout we had last week. We did come back for a pretty aggressive retest, but it doesn't look like price is managing to break above it. It is Saturday today. We've got the weekly candle, which will close tomorrow, at the end of tomorrow. It looks like we are breaking through. Last week's candle actually pulled all the way back up and left us a big wick. If we do that again and leave a big wick, then actually I will be pretty bullish on Bitcoin. To aggressive wicks to the downside whilst still respecting support, that's a sign that potentially price could rally. But if we close how we close-ish, how we're looking right now by Sunday, then yeah, the chance of us seeing downside is pretty high. And then we'll be looking at a push to around 73, 72k, 72k level, which is back down that area. And that would be a really nice place for a long. So I'm still overall bullish on Bitcoin, but since the breakout and the fact that we've had a couple of retests of this area, it's not looking too good. With price breaking back above, we're so far respecting it pretty well. We're likely to see a bit more downside now for Bitcoin, and then some longs back down at 72, 73k. So this is still very much what I'm interested in terms of the buys, waiting for price to get back down to these prices and then seeing what we can do. That could be a really nice place to take Bitcoin back to the upside again. If you're still looking for some shorts, then of course you're looking for price to come back into the high. That's more or less where you're going to focus your efforts for a sell. But for now, this is really what I'm looking at, which again might take a few days for us to get there, so keep a close eye. But for now, still pretty bearish, expecting us to hold 92k. We've had a couple attempts now, and so far price has done a pretty good job. So the chance of us seeing more downside is pretty high, and then we can discuss some buys around 73, 74, 72k, around that area, perhaps in the next few days. So that's the plan next week for Bitcoin. And last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which is Euro Yen. So I'm very bearish on Euro Yen as well, another Yen pair. Again, we can see a lovely head and shoulder pattern here, forming big left head, right shoulder. There's your neckline of the pattern, which I'm expecting price to break through soon. At the moment, we're forming these major highs on the daily chart. I'm looking for another one. My analysis to Euro Yen is very similar to Pound Yen as well. All I'm looking for is another push to the upside for another lower high to form, and then another swing back down again into support. Because I mean, speaking about price breaking support and going a lot further for Euro Yen, but of course, because it's such a strong level of support, we don't want to be directly selling into this. So I've been saying either price breaks through and we talk about some shorts afterwards, or price pulls away, finds another low high, and we can short it back down. Either which way, we're not selling directly into support, and it makes sure that we're trading in the right places. So with Euro Yen making this push to the upside this week, looking very bullish, I'm looking for a little bit more upside into that trend line around the 161,500 area, and about there is where I'm looking to short and targets back to where we came from. We could go a lot further. I might hold some positions to run depending how we look. That is very much what I'm interested in next week, and just looking to try and catch that next lower high in reference to these previous highs in this area. So very, very bearish for Euro Yen. Still looking for another push back into the low, expecting this wick low here to be taken out pretty soon as well. So I'm still very bearish for Euro Yen. It's just about waiting for us to get there, reject it well, of course, looking for entry signals, not just jumping straight in. But if you see some clear evidence of price respect in that area, great. We'll be looking to short and swing it back into support. And now we plan next week for Euro Yen. And that, guys, does bring us to the end of the analysis. So if you have enjoyed it, guys, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the bell so you don't miss out on any uploads in the future. Check out the Elevating Traders Discord channel, completely free to join. You can join discussions, find out more information about Elevating Traders. Link to that is in the description below. Comment down below any pairs you're looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.